Okay, so today I'm going to take a very quick look at the iPhone X from 2017. Now, as all of us nerds know, the iPhone X was the first of the redesigned iPhones with a full screen display and the notch which houses, of course, all those Face ID sensors. But I've had the iPhone X for about a week. I've been using it on and off. Here is my full review and as to whether you should buy the iPhone X in 2023. Now, if I quickly talk about the design of the iPhone X, it's a glass and stainless steel design. The stainless steel, which was introduced in the iPhone X, moved on from the aluminium of the 8 and the 8 Plus. I actually really like the stainless steel design of the iPhone X. I actually do prefer it to the aluminium flat edges of my iPhone 14 Plus. It's really nice to go back to using a curved edge iPhone again, and just the size of the phone as well. It's got a 5.8-inch OLED display, again OLED being introduced to the iPhone X from the LCDs of the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. It's a 5.8-inch display, so of course it is smaller than the 6.1-inch of the iPhone 13 and regular 14s as well. Overall, the design of the iPhone X is still really nice. It's really comfortable to use in the hand. And then of course on the back, you've got that dual camera system with two 12 megapixel sensors, an f1.8 primary camera, and then an f2.4 telephoto camera. So no ultra wide, that wasn't of course introduced until the iPhone 11. But like I said, overall, the design of the iPhone X is really nice. So if I talk just a little bit more about the display of the iPhone X and a little disclaimer before I go into more detail on the display of this phone. This is a second-hand model, of course, I have been buying with a lot of phones that I've been doing recently, and it has had a replacement screen on as well. So that will indicate a couple of things that I will be mentioning as this video progresses. But like I said, 5.8-inch display. The standard 60Hz refresh rate of the iPhone X display is of course standard on the majority of iPhones except the 13 and 14 Pros. My overall experience using the display of the iPhone X has been really nice. It hasn't felt too compact or anything like that going from my 14 Plus, which has a 6.7-inch display, down to this 5.8 of the X. So overall, I'm really impressed with the display. Everything is really smooth on the display. Color accuracy does seem to be a little bit off, and I think, like I said, that is probably down to the fact that it's a replacement display. It's nowhere near as punchy as on my iPhone 14 Plus, which of course in general is going to have a higher quality display anyway, but this is definitely not the same high quality display that would have come out on the phone when it was released brand new. It's definitely a cheaper third-party display, but again, overall, still really good. Everything looks nice and sharp, so there's not a huge amount to complain on the display of the iPhone X. But one thing that is quite refreshing is quite often when you get new displays on these phones that have Face ID, sometimes the Face ID just doesn't work. But I'm glad to report that the Face ID is fully working on my model of the iPhone X. And it is a little bit slower than my 14 Plus, which is to be expected down to the improved sensors and all that sort of stuff, but it does work absolutely fine. I've had no instances of it unable to read my face, so no problems with the Face ID at all. And then in that notch houses the 7 megapixel selfie camera, which of course is a step down from the updated 12 megapixel sensor that they introduced to the iPhone XS the following year. Photos from this selfie camera are still pretty good. There's plenty of detail, but of course it is a big step down from those phones. When I reviewed the iPhone XS Max, I did find that the selfie camera on that was really great, and I haven't had that same experience on the iPhone X. But it is still better than a lot of these budget Android device selfie cameras anyway. So you still get some really great portrait shots, and subject separation is still pretty good coming from that single camera. And as for performance on the iPhone X, you get the same 10nm A11 Bionic processor that you find on the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. This is backed up with just 3GB of RAM, which is of course half the amount that you find on the 14 and 14 Plus. But overall, performance has still been pretty good. I have found that it has been a little bit laggy here and there opening apps, but again, that might just be down to the lack of responsiveness from this third-party display, not necessarily the actual fault of the A11 Bionic inside the phone. I didn't find the same issues when I reviewed the iPhone 8 Plus, which of course uses that same Bionic processor, so I'm thinking it's probably just down to that third-party display. the lack of touch response and all that sort of stuff. But overall, in terms of everyday use, it's been absolutely fine. I've had no hiccups, no slowdowns or anything like that. The A11 Bionic is still plenty powerful enough for everyday use, and a decent amount of gaming it should handle pretty well as well. Of course, being built on a 10nm architecture, battery life hasn't been the best. It's only got a 2700 mAh battery in the iPhone 10, and it did just about get me through a full day of pretty mild use. I think I ended the day on about 20% at about 7 o'clock in the evening. So it would have died by the end of the day, but that wasn't my normal moderate usage that I would have done on my 14 Plus or anything like that. So you can absolutely kill it in a day. So of course, if you're a moderate to heavy user, the iPhone 10 is definitely not going to be the phone for you. But if you're someone that just uses the phone casually, does a bit of messaging, web browsing and takes a few photos, the iPhone 10 should get you through a full day. And lastly, if I just quickly talk about the main cameras on the iPhone 10, like I said before, you've got two 12 megapixel sensors, you've got an f1.8 primary camera and an f2.4 2x telephoto camera on the back as well. So there's no ultra wide on the iPhone 10, but it's not the end of the world for me. I don't find myself using ultra wides on my 14 Plus that often anyway. But photos from the iPhone 10 overall have got that typical iPhone look, really natural color, plenty of detail. Although there is plenty of color, they aren't quite as poppy as what I find on my 14 Plus. They do have an ever so slightly dull kind of look to them. But overall, I'm really happy with the quality of the photos from the iPhone 10. Close-up shots are pretty good as well. You do get a decent amount of detail, and that wide f1.8 aperture does help to bring in plenty of light during the day, which will help bring in that good amount of detail. The f2.4 aperture on the telephoto camera, of course, is a lot narrower than on the main camera, and these are always lesser quality sensors, so image quality isn't going to be as good as the main sensor. Not so noticeably during the day in bright conditions, but at night is where you'll definitely notice the difference. And unfortunately, the iPhone 10 doesn't support any form of night mode. That wasn't introduced until the iPhone 11. So low light photography is pretty tricky. You don't get huge amounts of detail. So I wouldn't go out expecting great photos at night with the iPhone 10. And video is shot at up to 4K at 60 FPS. And this is still pretty good video. Of course, when the phone first came out, it would have been at the top of the ranks when it comes to video quality. But of course, 5.5 years later, it's going to be pushed pretty far down the line. But for overall video quality, it's pretty good. Taking videos of family, your kids, your pets, all that sort of stuff has been absolutely fine. There isn't a huge amount to complain on the photo quality and the video quality of the iPhone 10. And then portrait shots are pretty good. There's good subject separation. This is of course using the telephoto camera, so it does zoom in when you select portrait mode, and there isn't the option to zoom back out to the main camera using portrait mode as what you'll find on the iPhone 11 Pros. But still, portrait mode is still pretty good, even if it does use that lesser quality sensor. But that's my look at the iPhone 10 in 2023. Overall, if you can get it at a pretty good price, I managed to get this for 150 quid off eBay. This is the base model with just 64 gigabytes of storage. It's still a pretty good phone. I can recommend it if you're not a heavy user. You know, of course, if you're looking for an 8 Plus or something like that, it would be absolutely fine. If you're looking for one of the iPhone SE, it would be tricky to recommend this over them, mainly because of the newer processing power from those phones, but battery life might be a little bit better, and you do get the advantage of that full screen OLED display with Face ID. But let me know in the comments what you think of the iPhone 10 in 2023. Are you using one? Is it one that you would consider buying almost 5.5 years later? And drop a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel, and I will hopefully see you in the next video.